Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our virtual press conference. Before we get started, we'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know how to participate in today's event. First, all lines are on mute. If you experience any technical difficulties at any point during our presentation, please explain your problem through the chat feature and we will try our best to address the issue. We will also hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. In order to ask a question, please go to the control panel and click Raise Hand, and we will call out your name, unmute your audio so you can speak. All materials for today's press conference will be available on our website at nj.gov/OAG. We are recording the press conference and the video will be available on our YouTube page within 24 hours. Please subscribe to New Jersey OAG on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Flickr for the latest updates on news, information, and resources from our office. Now I'd like to hand off things to our first speaker today, Attorney General Grewal.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this virtual press conference. Today, we're announcing the arrest of 21 alleged sex offenders as a result of Operation Screen Capture. All 21 stand accused of conduct involving the sexual exploitation of children. 3 defendants, in particular, are charged with either the sexual assault or the attempted sexual assault of children. They include 34-year-old Aaron Kreger. We allege that in early March, as the coronavirus began to ravage this state as well as the country, Mr. Kreger traveled from his home in Oklahoma to New Jersey to meet 2 men who offered him access to underage girls for sex. In reality, he was communicating with undercover detectives from the New Jersey State Police and agents from U.S. Homeland Security Investigations. He was arrested on March 18, 2020, when he arrived in New Jersey. A second defendant, Jason Berry, a 40-year-old from Keansburg, New Jersey, is alleged to have exploited a vulnerable 14-year-old girl he met on social media. We allege that over a very short period of time, a matter of weeks in fact, he groomed her and he manipulated her. And he caused her to not only send him naked pictures of herself engaged in sexual acts, but also forced her to carve his initials into her legs. We further allege that he then humiliated and traumatized her by sending those images to her mother. A third defendant, Elise Tejada, a 21-year-old Newark resident who worked as a babysitter, is alleged to have assaulted a toddler in her care, videotaping herself performing a sexual act on the child and posting that video on social media. All 3 of these defendants remain in custody pending trial on the charges against them. In addition to those 3 defendants, we arrested 18 other defendants who possessed and or distributed videos and images of child sexual abuse, including, in many cases, videos of young children being raped by adults. I want to be absolutely clear. Possessing and distributing these materials are heinous crimes. Crimes which directly drive the victimization of innocent children who are cruelly assaulted to produce them. And they are crimes which re-victimize those children each and every time those images of their suffering and exploitation are shared online. Now, this operation was led by our Division of Criminal Justice, the New Jersey State Police, the New Jersey Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Our task force partners included United States Homeland Security Investigations, the New Jersey State Parole Board, and 9 county prosecutors' offices. We began this operation in March, at the start of the COVID-19 state of emergency. This was no coincidence. We acted in direct response to an alarming increase in the number of tips we were receiving concerning online threats to children. In fact, these tips were up as much as 50% in New Jersey during the COVID emergency compared to the same time frame last year. And there's a simple explanation for this increase. During this pandemic, people are spending more time online. On the one hand, homebound children are spending more time on their devices, both for virtual learning and for recreation. And at the same time, predators are also spending more time online, taking advantage of this situation. Apps and gaming systems continue to be prime hunting grounds for child predators seeking victims. And gaming platforms with chat and voice apps are particularly attractive to offenders seeking to groom children for exploitation. But children are also vulnerable on social media. Defendant Jason Berry, who I talked about a moment ago, allegedly used Snapchat to solicit sexual images from his victim. Against this backdrop, and at all times for that matter, there is no higher priority for all of us than protecting our young people. That's why we've redoubled our efforts to keep our young people safe at this incredibly difficult time. And with today's announcement, we're sending a clear message to child predators and those who share child sexual abuse materials online. You may think that you can hide behind the anonymity of the internet, but we will find you and we will arrest you. Our state troopers, our detectives, our law enforcement partners are all working 24/7 at this time to keep our residents safe in the midst of this pandemic. That includes keeping our roads and highways safe. It includes keeping our neighborhoods and communities safe. And yes, it includes keeping our children safe online and in cyberspace. But that's not the only message that we're sending today. We're also asking for parents, family members, and loved ones for their help. That's because predators like the ones we've arrested in this case are an ever-present danger on the internet, and law enforcement can't protect against all of them alone. We must all work together to protect our children, and parents, guardians, family members must do their part. And here are 5 things you can do right away to protect your kids, especially as many young people return to school this fall in a virtual setting and online. First, parents, teach your children that the people they encounter online, on their phones, on their devices, may not be who they seem, and they should be wary of interacting with strangers online just as they would be in real life. Second, familiarize yourselves with these popular apps and gaming platforms that predators have used during the course of this investigation and in prior investigations to target young victims. Third, check the security settings on your kids' phones and on these apps and games. Check who they're able to speak with, who they're able to communicate with. Are they only chatting with friends who they know or family members, or are strangers able to contact them as well? Fourth, constantly remind your children not to share personal information with strangers on the internet, either through email or chat, or even through a revealing screen name that unwittingly reveals their gender or their age. Just tell your children they should never take inappropriate photos or videos of themselves or share inappropriate materials. The consequences, if they're shared publicly or if they fall into the wrong hands, are simply too serious. Finally, be wary if your child is secretive or protective about their phone or their computer. Ideally, and in a perfect world, computers and gaming devices should be kept in a central location where parents can monitor them. And children shouldn't have their phones with them in their bedrooms at night. A simple suggestion is to create a family charging station where all mobile devices are stored at bedtime. Together, through law enforcement efforts like Operation Screen Capture, and by parents and family members and loved ones doing their part to educate our young people about online dangers, we will keep our children safe, especially in the midst of this once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. So now thank you to all the dedicated law enforcement professionals, officers, prosecutors who participated in this operation. You'll hear from several of them in the next few speakers who are leaders in this operation. You'll hear from Director Veronica Allende from our Division of Criminal Justice, Colonel Pat Callahan, the Superintendent of our New Jersey State Police, the Special Agent in charge of U.S. Homeland Security Investigations in New Jersey, Special Agent Jason Molina, and Mercer County Prosecutor Angela Onifrey, who will speak on behalf of the 9 county prosecutors who participated in this operation. Let me turn it over now to Director Allende.
Thank you, Attorney General Grewal. I will now provide a few more details about Operation Screen Capture. For this operation, specially trained ICAC task force detectives use both proactive and reactive investigative techniques to help us meet our ultimate goal: to identify, arrest, and prosecute individuals who are using the internet to harm, abuse, and otherwise exploit children online. Many of the cases in this operation stemmed from cyber tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But other cases involved undercover chat investigations where perpetrators were attempting to meet children or other individuals online in order to sexually assault children. We arrested 20 males and 1 female, ranging in ages from 15 to 71. 18 of them are charged with endangering the welfare of children for possession and/or distribution of child sexual abuse material. The possession charges are third-degree offenses, and the distribution charges are second-degree offenses. The 3 alleged to have sexually assaulted children or attempted such assaults are variously charged with offenses that include first-degree aggravated sexual assault, first-degree manufacturing child sexual abuse material, second-degree sexual assault, second-degree attempted sexual assault, and second-degree theft by extortion. The Division of Criminal Justice is prosecuting those 3 defendants: Aaron Krager, Jason Berry, and Elise Tejada. Berry and Tejada face first-degree charges. The Division of Criminal Justice also is prosecuting 6 defendants charged with possessing and/or distributing child sexual abuse materials. The other 12 defendants are being prosecuted by the 9 participating county prosecutors' offices. First-degree charges carry a sentence of 10 to 20 years in state prison. Second-degree charges carry a sentence of 5 to 10 years in prison. And third-degree charges carry a sentence of 3 to 5 years in prison. It's important to note that our investigations did not stop when these defendants were arrested. We obtained search warrants for seized digital devices, including the defendants' cell phones. Those devices were taken to various computer forensic labs for full examinations. Those exams, which are pending, will reveal whether the devices contain evidence of any other encounters with underage victims or sharing of child sexual abuse materials, which could lead to additional charges. With all that parents have to worry about during the COVID-19 crisis, we hate to add to your worries, but the trend of increasing reports of potential threats to children online cannot be ignored. We want you to know that our law enforcement officers and prosecutors are working around the clock to investigate and prosecute those who use the internet to sexually exploit children. Protecting the children of our state has been and always will be a top priority. Meanwhile, please take the steps the Attorney General outlined to protect your children. You may think nothing can happen with your children being home all day, but please be vigilant. Be alert to changes in your child's use of electronic devices and attempts to conceal online activity. Notice your children's behavior during texts or notifications. Are they secretive? Are they withdrawn? Are they angry, anxious, or depressed? These could be signs of trouble, including online abuse. And if you have specific reasons to suspect online enticement or sexual exploitation of a child, please report it immediately by calling 911 or filing a report with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 800-843-5678 or by visiting report.cybertip.org. Together, we will protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Am I unmuted? Thank you, Director. Let me now turn it over to Colonel Pat Callahan, the Superintendent of the New Jersey State Police, which played a critical role in this operation as well. Pat?
Thank you, Attorney General Grewal. This operation screen capture really is just another example of the collaborative efforts that we need to undertake to combat crimes like this. 15 agencies from federal, state, county entities came together in order to make sure that we protect our children Certainly this pandemic has really driven students and children to their electronic devices, not just for remote learning, but to connect with family and friends. And in doing so, we've increased the opportunities exponentially for those online predators to sadly prey on our children. So with the fall coming up as well with schools, a lot of the district's plans are coming in. It's going to be some all remote learning, certainly a concern for us. And that's why we need to, as the AG and director said, make sure that parents and guardians have a constant conversation with regards to those online threats. These predators are a very opportunistic criminals, and it's operations like this that one, not only to the AG's point, have to let us all be aware that they're out there, but two, it's also my hope as a deterrent that when somebody intends to commit a crime like this and either possess or share child sexual abuse material, that they think that there's a criminal justice detective or a Jersey trooper on the other end that'll be waiting for them. That's my hope as well, because see the increase that we've saw since the pandemic began gives us great concern. So it's again, operations like this. I thank all of our partners here, a phenomenal effort. And I just stress the importance of that constant engagement and really to protect the innocence of all of our children, especially as they go back to school in the fall. I'll turn it back to you, General. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. And as you indicated, this was truly a collaborative effort, and U.S. Homeland Security Investigations plays a critical role in all the ICACs across the country, the Internet Crimes Against Children task forces. And we have no better partner than Special Agent in Charge Jason Molina from U.S. Homeland Security Investigations here in New Jersey. So I'd ask him to now share his perspective on this investigation. Jason?
Okay, we're getting that taken care of. Thank you, General. Good morning. My name is Jason Molina. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of Homeland Security Investigations, Newark Field Office. I'd like to start by thanking Attorney General Grewal, Director Allende, Colonel Callahan, all of our great prosecutors, and all of our great partners in the Internet Crimes Against Children, or ICAC, task force, for your great long partnership and your continuous commitment to safeguarding our children. Bringing to justice those who sexually exploit children is one of HSI's highest priorities. This pandemic has been extremely stressful on all of us here. But there are those out there who look at this tragic event as an opportunity to victimize the most vulnerable and precious members of society, our children. With foresight, knowing that children out of necessity will be spending more time online for education and entertainment purposes, and further knowing that there would be a criminal element out there looking to take advantage, AG Grewal and the ICAC and all of our partners here initiated Operation Screen Capture. As a law enforcement officer and as a father, I feel these violators are the worst of the worst. And my message is very simple for those who seek to exploit our children. If you think you can hide behind a computer screen or travel from state to state to victimize a child, you're wrong. HSI and our law enforcement partners are committed to working around the clock, keeping the pressure on to identify you, arrest you, and bring you to justice. Just like the Attorney General mentioned earlier, Aaron Krager, who allegedly traveled from Oklahoma to New Jersey with the intent of sexually exploiting 2 teenage girls. It's a long trip. Unfortunately, he did not meet those 2 girls, but he did meet undercover law enforcement officers and he was arrested. The ICAC task force is a great example of federal, state, and local resources working jointly to combat this terrible evil in our midst, one that we fight relentlessly on a daily basis across all of the United States and really across the world. In law enforcement, as the Attorney General said, we cannot do this alone. We need the help from the parents, the loved ones, the guardians, the teachers, to take proactive steps as were outlined here before. At the end of the day, We all must remember that we're all in this together, and we all must do our part to keep our children safe. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you, Jason. And finally, I'd like to ask Prosecutor Onifrey, the Mercer County prosecutor, to speak on behalf of the 9 county prosecutors without whom many of these cases would not have been possible. Each of them serve as the chief law enforcement officers in their counties, and they do exceptional work each and every day and are stepping up in incredible ways right now in the midst of this pandemic, including, as the prosecutor will share with you, to keep our young people safe. Ange?
Thank you, General. And thank you for leading this operation and for suggesting it. Now more than ever, your leadership is truly appreciated. Thank you. The 21 county prosecutors' offices and the 9 prosecutors' offices that took place in this operation, from Bergen to Burlington, Camden, Essex, Gloucester, Middlesex, Ocean, and Sussex, we're all proud to take part in Operation Screen Capture with our Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force partners, including the Attorney General, the Division of Criminal Justice, the ICAC Task Force of the New Jersey State Police, Homeland Security Investigations, and the New Jersey Parole Board. The success of this operation highlights how important it is that parents and guardians know that these online predators are out there, and especially as remote learning begins again and children are going to spend more and more time on their screens. And it's just as important that anyone who would use the internet as a tool to harm our kids know that collectively, all 21 county prosecutors' offices will continue to use every resource at our disposal to identify, investigate, and arrest these predators before they have a chance to cause any harm to our children. And the message to parents is clear. As everyone on this video conference has said, the parents have to be vigilant. They have to take a greater role in our children's online activities. And if you think something's amiss, and if you think something's not right, contact the local authorities so that we can stop this behavior and to stop these predators before they ever get a chance to do anything to our kids. And finally, I'd just like to give a special thanks to all the detectives that participated in this operation. You know, our detectives in our office see a whole variety of things, from homicides to sexual assaults. But among the most disturbing are these images that are being shared over the internet of children in sexual and compromising positions. So to the officers out there, thank you. We appreciate everything you're doing. And to the predators, just know we're out there and we're coming for you. Thank you for this opportunity, General.
Thanks, Ange. A number of the speakers have recognized the many participants who contributed to the success of this operation. While I can't recognize everyone involved, I do want to recognize a few more people, specifically in groups of people. I want to thank the attorneys, the detectives, all the staff for all 9 county prosecutors' offices that participated in this operation under the leadership of Bergen County Prosecutor Mark Masella, Burlington County Prosecutor Scott Kafina, who's represented today by First Assistant Prosecutor Phil Aronow, Camden County Prosecutor Jill Mayer, Essex County Prosecutor Ted Stevens, Gloucester County Prosecutor Christine Hoffman, Mercer County Prosecutor Angela Onifrey, who you just heard from, Middlesex County Prosecutor Yolanda Ciccone, Ocean County Prosecutor Brad Billheimer, and Sussex County Prosecutor Francis Koch. I also want to thank again U.S. Homeland Security Investigations North and South under the leadership of Special Agent in Charge Molina and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Rich Reinhold. And of course, the State Parole Board that Prosecutor Onifrey mentioned under the leadership of Chairman Samuel Plumeri Jr. for assisting with arrests and search warrants in this case. And for the New Jersey State Police under the leadership of Superintendent Callahan, I want to specifically thank the ICAC commander, Lieutenant John Pizzuro, all of the detectives who worked on the operation for the State Police ICAC unit, and the State Police teams and canine units for assisting with arrests and search warrants in this case. For our Division of Criminal Justice, I want to thank Veronica Allende, the director, for her leadership, Deputy Director Rob Sepiel, Jillian Carpenter, Chief of the Financial and Cyber Crimes Bureau, Deputy Bureau Chief Lillian Daniel, and again, all the attorneys, all the CJ detectives, the detective supervisors, staff members who worked on this operation from the Financial and Cyber Crimes Bureau. One thing that Prosecutor Onufrey mentioned a moment ago, I think bears repeating. These types of investigations are among the most challenging and taxing on law enforcement officers. As the prosecutor alluded to, day in and day out, our detectives and attorneys, for that matter, are reviewing horrific images of children being sexually exploited. We talk a lot about resiliency and the work that we're doing across this state to ensure that our officers are equipped with not only the tools they need to do their jobs, but also the tools they need to protect themselves and their mental health and well-being. I think everyone assigned to the ICAC and those who prosecute these cases are particularly in need of those tools because, as the prosecutor talked about, these are horrific, horrific cases and images. And so I want to thank them for their resilience in pursuing these cases. I want to thank them on behalf of every one of the children who they protect in this state every day when they go and do their jobs as part of this task force. With that, we'll now turn it over to your on-topic questions first. Whit?
Thank you, General. Yes, we are going to open it up to questions. So if you have a question, you can use the raise hand feature on the control. As mentioned, due to time, please keep all questions on topic. We have a question here from Dino Flamia. Dino, I'm going to unmute you there.
All right, hopefully you can hear me. Yes, it's Dino Flamia with New Jersey 101.5. This relates to a comment that Director Allende made. I know we had some defendants who are accused of actual assault or attempted assault, and then there are others who are distributing materials. And then I think you said something about 6 defendants who were distributing sexual abuse materials, and I was just wondering what you meant by that.
So that Dino is directed at Director Allende, correct?
She was the one who made that comment. So whoever wants to take the question, it's fine.
Sure, Veronica, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, General. So we previously have been referring to the materials as child pornography, and we think that does a huge disservice to what the materials actually, in fact, are. There is a trend throughout the nation to change that dialogue and to change that terminology to more accurately reflect the materials that are being sought after by these predators and that are being manufactured and distributed by these predators. And so we are trying to make sure that we are a leader in that trend and making sure that we are accurately stating the different types of materials that we are seeing throughout the investigations. And so I think they're more aptly referred to as child sexual abuse materials because that is exactly what they reflect.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we have a question here from Blake Nelson. Blake, we're just going to unmute your mic. Blake, if you can unmute on your end. Blake, you're there? All right, we'll come back to Blake. We will continue through. We have a question here from Carly Baldwin. Carly, we're going to unmute your mic. Carly? Carly, you should be unmuted there. All right, my apologies, everyone. We're going to continue through, hopefully. We have a question also from Julie Shaw. Carly, we'll come back to you. Julie, you're unmuted. If there's anybody who has issues with their mics, feel free to also enter your questions into the question pane. I will read them off. Julie, you should be unmuted.
Hi. Okay, yes, hi, this is Julie Shaw from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I was wondering if you can just say which counties the 3 people who are alleged to have committed either sexual assault or attempted sexual assault, where they took place, Aaron Krager, Jason Berry, and Elise Tejada. And also if you will be releasing any more details about those cases, either in a later press release or if you could talk about them now.
Thanks, Julie. I'm going to direct your question to the director. I believe, and the director can clarify, and the prosecutors can jump in, but Elise Tejada was arrested in Essex County in Newark. Mr. Berry was a resident of Keansburg, and Mr. Kreger was arrested when he showed up in Atlantic County, taking a train during the midst of the COVID pandemic to meet individuals who he allegedly believed were going to put him in touch with underage girls for him to sexually abuse. But Director?
I believe that is correct, General.
All right, moving through here. We have a question from Steve Janoski. Steve, we're going to unmute your mic. Steve, you should
Hey,
be
how you
live.
doing? I just had a question. How many of these arrests were a direct result of ICAC tips, and how many were just more organic investigations?
Thanks, Steve, for your question. I'm going to ask the ICAC Commander, Lieutenant John Pizzurro, to talk broadly on that. I don't want to get into specific leads and things of that nature, but on a broad level, John, if you want to handle that question.
Sure, thanks, General. Most of the tips came from the actual National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. There were several of those investigations that were chat related, as well as some referrals from outside agencies. One of the things within the task force is that we communicate not just in New Jersey, but with all our partners around the United States and around the world. So sometimes we'll get some tips regarding that. The tip specifically for Jason Barry came from Louisiana.
And I just want to follow up on John's point there, and really a broader point that applies to the issue that we're talking about today. In some cases, you have individuals like Aaron Kreger, who we allege traveled to inflict harm on young people. In another case, we have, as we allege, an individual who sat behind a computer believing to hide behind the anonymity of his screen name here in Keansburg, New Jersey, who inflicted actual physical harm on a 14-year-old girl in Louisiana, causing her to share with him child sexual abuse materials and causing her to hurt herself physically by manipulating and grooming her in a very short period of time, in a matter of weeks, to carve his initials, as we allege, into her body. That is the danger we're dealing with. On top of that, we have individuals like Elise Tejada, a babysitter, who exploited and abused a toddler in her care. So the cases here are horrific and run the gamut, but underscore how the danger of somebody behind a computer in New Jersey can inflict harm, physical harm, on an individual, a young person in an entirely different state.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to try Blake again. Blake, we're going to unmute your mic there. Blake, are you on? All right, looks like there's still issues there, but he has written his question as well, so I'll just read that off. Good morning, all. A 50% increase in tips. Could someone address the specific number of tips you've received this year and what time period we're looking at?
So I think that's a question for John Pizzurro again, Lieutenant.
So from March 1st last year, from March 1st to July 31st, we received 1,200 cyber tips. In that same time frame during this year, we received 3,600 cyber tips. Now, most of those aren't predator related. With people being at home, especially more screen time, what we're having, for example, 13-year-olds share CSAM material with other 13-year-olds. We're having 16-year-olds share material with other 16-year-olds. We're also having a lot of viral videos being sent. So what happens with boredom and screen time and everyone being home, a lot more people are sharing, and a lot more ESPs, or your electronic service providers, are actually reporting those tips to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We estimate that based upon just the criminal aspect of the behavior, that it's up 50%. So when you look at those numbers, it's very important to understand that all those numbers aren't exact predators, but it is a result of individuals staying home.
Thanks, John.
Okay, moving on, we have a question from Carly Baldwin from the Patch. I'll read it out. She wanted to know if you could expand on the hotline and the COVID increase with all of these kids stuck at home.
I think we talked about the COVID increase, and John's last answer, I think, touched on that, what we're seeing with young people at home, more online, and the specific numbers. But Veronica, if you want to share again the hotline information, I think that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Just give me one moment. Okay. So the hotline phone number is for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is 800-843-5678, or you can visit their website, report.cybertip.org.
Great. We also have a hand raised here from Cesar Darius. Cesar, we're going to unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. I want to ask a question I asked last year when you did this, and that is the responsibility of the app developers and the companies that allow you to download these apps. What is their responsibility? Have they been in contact with you? Because it seems like when they want to, they can stop anything and monitor anything.
Yeah, I'll touch on this, and if Lieutenant Pizzurro wants to add on, I'd welcome him to as well. He's really the subject matter expert on this issue. In some cases in the past, when we were dealing with gaming platforms and other apps where predators were using them to chat with young people, that was in some cases, unbeknownst to parents, the defaults were such that young people could chat with anybody. And then after pressure was brought to bear on app developers, they changed those defaults. They provided greater information to parents on how to address security issues and make sure that their young people were chatting only with people who they approved and not open to the entirety of cyberspace and to predators unbeknownst to them. So pressure does work. ESPs, as John talked about a moment ago, are cooperative and helpful in making referrals to NCMEC and to law enforcement. But clearly, more needs to be done and more responsibility needs to be taken by game and app developers to put in security features to protect young people. And even on social media platforms where we saw that Snapchat was used in one particular case, in the Berry case. So, John?
Thank you, General. As far as apps go, there's not a lot of app companies and app developers are monitoring content. The reason for it is that I just started an app company and all of a sudden I have 3 or 4 people. So the dangerous apps here are the apps that do not monitor content, and most of them don't. They also, anonymity is a big aspect because I can create any profile that I want. I can create any email that I want. So we actually need not just state legislation, but national legislation to actually aid us with this. One of the things that's happening right now is Facebook is pushing end-to-end encryption, which is unlawful access. What that's going to prohibit is tips from, for example, from Facebook on Messenger that go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And we've spoken about this nationally. So for the app developers and companies, they haven't been held liable for a lot of the monitoring or the content on their platforms. Even though there's continued dialogue with a lot of these app developers and platforms, it becomes problematic. So it's my advice to parents, if there's an app that does not monitor your content, for example, like Omegle, like Whisper, Kick, all these app companies, if they're not monitoring their content and you can create any persona that you want, they're problematic for parents and their children really shouldn't be on there. I'll just go a little further into the gaming systems because everyone's home, whether it be Xbox, whether it be PlayStation. Discord is another app that now your children are going to use for gaming apps. Voice conversation back and forth from those app developers and even those games, they're not monitored as well. So parents need to be vigilant and take a look at what's happening in the chat platform of their gaming systems, because everyone's focused on their phones, but they're forgetting where the children are playing. Before it was a playground, today it's your Xbox.
May I follow up, please?
Sure.
What about specifically, none of these apps gets on the App Store or Google Play without the approval of Apple and Google. And in some cases, they're very active about removing apps or making demands on app developers. Can you specifically talk about Apple and Google and what they are and are not doing, or what they should be doing?
In my estimation, Apple should take some responsibility as far as monitoring what they're on their platform. However, that's a conversation that, again, is going to be beyond me and even beyond New Jersey, because of the legislation that needs to be enacted for Apple to force that. And General, I would refer to you on those questions.
You know, we've taken a lead as a state in demanding more of social media platforms, in particular Facebook, to do more to police their platforms when it comes to issues related to promoting hatred, bias, white supremacy, and anti-Semitism. We led a nationwide coalition of state attorneys general to ask them to abide by the recommendations made by a panel that they convened to look at what they should be doing. And clearly, even their own experts recognize that they're falling short. So we're bringing to bear whatever resources and pressure we can on these social media companies and others to do their part. Some of the things that the lieutenant alluded to are that there are barriers to platform liability. Yeah, there are federal laws that sometimes are used both as a sword and a shield by these platforms. And so, you know, they're challenges, but they're not insurmountable challenges. So we continue to do what we can from the state attorney general's office, from our office, from our county prosecutor's office, to try to bring pressure to bear on these platforms to do more to police what's going on their platforms.
All right, General, we have one more question here from the Cassidy of CBS that I'll read out. Is there a specific age range that you found to be at greatest risk for becoming a victim of online predators?
So again, this is something I think John could best address. I think there are some alarming trends that we have seen of late of particular age groups in the 7 to 9 year old age group where there's been increased concern. And so, John, perhaps you want to speak to that?
Sure, General. The biggest increase is between 7, 8, and 9 year olds, and it's called self-produced videos, meaning that they are being groomed and they are creating their own videos. So now, we used to tell parents keep a computer in a room where everyone can see, but now that we have this phone with us all the time, one of the challenges is that we're having 7, 8, 9 year old range taking more self-produced sexually explicit videos and C-STAN material and then sharing it. And most of that, they're groomed, because what predators are doing, they're getting a 7-year-old video or 8-year-old video. In the case of Samuel Schringer last year, who had 67 victims between 6 and 12, that was his MO, and that's how he went about it. So yes, the alarming trend is that we're having younger children share videos that never shared videos before.
Whitney, I want to just jump in and thank all the county prosecutors who are online and all the law enforcement agencies represented. And, you know, there have been a number of questions, so I don't want to not give them an opportunity to touch on anything that they might want to add to or anything that they may wish to share at this moment. If we have a couple of minutes, we could just open it up to our law enforcement partners. Pat, Jason, the county prosecutors, let's go in that order. Final thoughts, Pat?
Thank you, General. And just the other thing that, even though we've seen that 50% increase on the cyber threat, we've seen a corresponding decrease in the report of like domestic violence and child abuse, because the children are not at schools or playing sports where teachers and coaches would traditionally be the ones that detect that and ask the next question. So that combination of children driven to devices and then not being out exposed to teachers and coaches is a serious combination. So that's why operations like this are so important. Thanks, General.
And I think when we talk about vigilance, we don't have those extra eyes on young people who might be being abused. And that same isolation that's helping us protect ourselves against COVID is allowing abusers to, in some cases, abuse young people or a partner without detection. So when we talk about vigilance with our own children and young people that we may know to protect them against other predators, we also need to keep an eye out if we see victimization or signs of victimization, because those eyes and ears that our teachers serve as in referring cases and stepping in and helping young people aren't there in the same way that they were there prior to COVID. So thanks for that, Pat. Jason, Veronica, let's go to the county prosecutors for final thoughts if they wish to share something. Jason, anything to share?
I would just say that a huge part of this is the awareness factor, which is exactly what we're doing here today, to identify these individuals, the methods that they're using. The education part is a huge part of it. You know, I would even, NECMEC page has a lot of material there for teachers as well. Since everything is on, a lot of it will be online now with the teachers. Perhaps they could also help educate the children. So I just want to thank all the partners also.
Thanks, Jason. Veronica?
And just a few last comments that I would say, and because we are addressing the public today, is that the public can certainly help us as well. If you see anything on any type of social media website, please, please, please reach out to the tip line that we provided. We are more than happy to investigate anything that you might be able to see. I will tell you that in our investigations, some of them do in fact come from tips that we get from the public as well, noting that they are seeing something on Facebook or social media that they shouldn't see. And we are vigilant about pursuing those as soon as possible to make sure that if there is, for example, a toddler in the Tejada case, if there is someone that is so particularly vulnerable, that we are doing everything we can to stop any additional abuse of that child. So to the members of the public, if you see something, say something. I know it's a trite comment that we've seen all around, but I cannot stress enough how important it is and how we will jump on those tips as soon as possible.
Thank you, Director. Prosecutor Onifrey, and then any of the other county prosecutors who wish to share a final thought.
Thanks, General. And I just wanted to pick up on something that you said during your comments and the director said during hers about being aware of these kind of behaviors and your suggestion for the family charging stations. I just think we need to remind the parents, those phones and those computers aren't your kids. They're your phones and they're your computer because you're paying for them. Take a look at them, see what kind of apps, see what kind of gaming they're participating in, see who they're chatting with. I think that's really what we mean by vigilance on the part of parents. So again, thank you, General, for leading this.
Thank you, Ange. Any of the other county prosecutors who want to chime in with the last thought? Brad?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to jump in. Just to follow up on Ange and the other comments with regards to it being your property. You know, I've actually had parents tell us that their child has a lock on their room, their door, and they can't go in, that they won't let them see their phones. These, as Angelo had said, these are your devices. You're protecting your children. You need to step up and do that. Be their parent and guardian and not worry about always being their friend. Also, one other point is if your children are doing a lot of meeting at other people's houses and they're doing their games there or they're doing their social media, know what the rules of that household are. Follow up, make a phone call, talk to that parent. Again, I've heard many times that parents have said, well, their children would rather not go. They're going to tell them, I'll die of embarrassment. Well, no child has ever died in Sussex County of embarrassment of a parent checking up, but there have been children that have been victims of these horrible predators. So please stay vigilant and stay active. Report it to the tip lines, report it to the local police, report it to the county prosecutor's office. Over-reporting is never overdone. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. Let's go to Brad and then to Prosecutor Ciccone.
Thanks, General. If I could just add that one of the things that we try to do here in Ocean through our own social media platforms is to educate parents. And I think that's an important component to making sure that parents know what apps to look for on their children's phones and to making sure that they stay vigilant. So we're very active on our social media. And I can tell you that when we post information about Kik or Snapchat or any of these apps that the kids are using, it's one of the areas that we get the most comments on from parents who didn't know what to look for. So we try to make sure when we do it that the graphics are clear and that people can see and parents and guardians can look and see what they should be looking for on their children's phones. And you know, I'm a father as well, and we do have a charging station at home, and the phones go on the kitchen counter every night, and there's no reason your children should have their phones in their rooms at night. So we all have a responsibility here to protect our children, and it starts at home. And we here in law enforcement are going to do everything we can to make sure that our children are safe. So thank you, General.
Thanks, Prosecutor. Prosecutor Ciccone? Hold on, you got to unmute.
I just wanted to mention that the phrase stranger was used. You make sure your children don't speak to strangers, but if someone is so predatory that they begin to talk to the children through the gaming apps, then the kids, you know, especially the ages we're talking about, 7, 8, and 9, think, well, that's not a stranger because we talk on Fortnite or we talk on different games and that type of thing. So I think it's very important for parents to explain the idea of what a stranger is. If someone asks to speak to you, not in that gaming app, but in some other place, that is a stranger, even though you might know their name or might have seen an avatar of them. That's a stranger. So especially when you're talking about children as young as 7, 8, and 9, I just wanted to bring that to the public's attention.
Thank you, Prosecutor. I don't see any other hands from my prosecutor colleagues. Oh, no, I do see 2 hands. Okay, we'll go to Prosecutor Stevens and Prosecutor Mayer to wrap us up, and then we'll conclude today's presentation. Prosecutor Stevens?
Thank you, General. Everybody has really pointed to the key aspect in this is parental control. And a lot of it is perhaps generational. We all know that our lovely little children and Johnny and Jill all love to get likes. Something as simple as that, and it is an innocent sort of an approach, but it can have devastating consequences. So I do reiterate what everyone has said for parents to be as vigilant as they can. And I also want to thank the just indicated Essex is proudly part of this ICAC task force, because it is reaping results which are going to benefit the entire state of New Jersey. So we're happy and proud to be part of that association.
Thanks, Ted. Jill, you want to close us out with your final comments?
Sure. Thank you, General. As we know, it's important to have that kind of relationship with your children where they would feel comfortable coming to you if they felt uncomfortable with something that one of their friends is sharing with them. But I think it's important, given that children aren't in school and able to go to teachers, that you also serve as a role model for your children's friends. It may be that they are uncomfortable going to their parents. So you want to be able to have that kind of relationship with your children's friends, that you could serve as a role model to them so that they could maybe come to you if there's something uncomfortable happening on the internet or in their world.
Thanks, Jill. As you could see by the extraordinary turnout on this call and the efforts undertaken in this case, there is no higher priority for us than keeping our young people safe. Our law enforcement officers, our state troopers, detectives, county prosecutors, detectives, everyone is working overtime in the midst of this pandemic to keep all of our residents safe. As I said earlier, we're doing that on our roads and highways, in our neighborhoods and communities, and we're doing it online and in cyberspace, because that's what this requires. And if there's one takeaway, we can't do it alone. We need everybody to be vigilant to help us keep our young people safe at this difficult time. So again, thank you to all the law enforcement partners. Thank you to everyone who participated in this investigation. And we will continue to do this hard work to keep our young people safe. Thanks, everyone.